Arco 1964 here, another video looking at racing, a little less elite than last week's one, it was done right at the end of the week, but looking from yesterday, from the 13th through to the 19th of July, at racing in Britain and in Ireland, on the Monday, and the Apprentice Handicap Stakes, of just a 1 mile 5 furlongs for 4 euros plus. Day at Beverley, we have a Markham Greenslade Doncaster LVA Stalwart Memorial Handicap Stakes, just under a mile 2 furlongs, 3 year olds only. There's been a race at Beverley named after Markham Greenslade since 2016, and looking at the internet, he died that year and was living in Fish Lake at the time, just to the northeast of Doncaster. Why there's a race at Beverley, not Doncaster, I don't know. The LVA, part of the Licensed Victuallers Association, basically means he's a landlord. One of these have, what comes from Newcastle, you have the guilds, and it's basically that sort of name that you have for the sort of guild that was probably in place a few hundred years ago. Also at Downpatrick in Ireland, have the Tony Oakes MBE maiden hurdle, 2 miles 5 furlongs 185 yards. This race has been run at Downpatrick since 2019. Not quite sure why it started in 2019. None of these races started a few years after a person sadly died, and Tony Oakes dying in Downpatrick in 2015, and he was very much involved in printing, and it says his obituary that is the founder of a family business plus to print in 1990, as also for 36 years a volunteer fireman starting back in 1969, and his work for those volunteer firemen and community workers why he got an MBE in 2002. Wednesday in Bath, back in Britain, he has a Apprentice Handicap 5,160 yards, 3 euros plus. North for Catterick Cup EBF restricted maiden and filly stakes, appears to be a new race, fraction of 5 furlongs for 2 euros only. Catterick has an amateur Turkish handicap stakes, fraction of a mile and a half for 4 euros plus. The Power 5 the Fast Show. This week we'll mainly be racing in Killarney with a 5-day meeting, and I mentioned some of the days on this video. We have a Curragh Stakes listed race just over a mile for 3 year olds fillies, but are EBF eligible and have not won a group race. Curragh was a filly who won 3 major races in 1980, Irish 1,000 guineas, Coronation Stakes and Champion Stakes. I'm not sure exactly the connection between Curragh and Killarney, I don't know if she ran there, but anyway, obviously this race has been named after her and was the first one in 2014. 7-day Uttoxeter, the Alfie Flat 18th birthday celebration handicap steeplechase, exactly 2.5 miles, and Yarmouth, an evening meeting with Apprentice Handicap Stakes, just over 5 furlongs for 3 years only. Thursday Hamilton, Alex McWilliams Memorial Celebration Protected Nottingham Stakes, 1 mile 68 yards, or between 3 and 5 year olds. Our maiden mile handicap stakes, same distance, 3 years plus. I saw this race some few years ago, can't remember exactly when, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Race named after Alex McWilliams, appears to be a new race, so sadly must have died during the last year, but I don't know any information about him. Hamilton's had a couple of Armada races, and some sort of maiden race between 91 and 98, and then since 2017 there's been this handicap that has come in, and the Armada Street is in Hamilton. Same day, an evening meeting, again Killarney, this time it's at D. Ivor O'Sullivan Memorial Irish EBF Mares Hurdle Race, 2 miles 4 furlongs and 85 yards. And then there's a Ladies Pro Am National Flat Race, 2 miles 1 furlong. Looks like it should be Dr. Ivor O'Sullivan, although the Irish Racing website doesn't put it back clearly, but it just puts the doctor is Dr. O'Sullivan, and was first ran here in 2023. Dermot Ivor O'Sullivan was the former chairman of Killarney and a former national senior steward who died in 2023, aged 89, and was involved in the Killarney Racecourse for over 50 years. Same day, an evening meeting at Leopardstown, with a Apprentice Handicap of a fraction of 7 furlongs for 3 years plus. And also Meld Stakes, Group 3, 1 mile 1 furlong. Now, I mentioned this before, actually, in a previous video, I think last week, about the Meld Stakes. The original Brownstown Stakes, which then became a Meld Stakes, and the Brownstown Stakes name went to a different race. Meld was a very successful filly in 1955, winning 1,000 guineas, Coronation Stakes, Epsom Oaks and the St Leger. Interesting thing, I'm just reading down Wikipedia about Meld the horse. Following the London North East Railway tradition of naming locomotives after winning racehorses, and this will be the old LNER, which came in after, not the new one, that came after Virgin lost its franchise. That's the old London North Eastern Railway. I didn't know they named locomotives after racehorses, but we did. And they've said that British Railways Deltic diesel locomotive number D9003, later 55003, was named after the horse on the 7th of July 1961 and made in service until the 31st December 1980. Same at Chepstow as Apprentice Handicap faction over 5 furlongs for €4 plus. Even beating Epsom and with Steve Donoghue handicap stakes, just over 1 mile and half a furlong, €4 plus. I think the 4 other derbies outside the main Epsom derby, it's the Ladies Derby handicap stakes, female amateur jockeys, and over derby trip, €4 plus for this sort of derby. Other ones, I think, of Apprentice Derby, the Jump Jockeys Derby, and the Amateur Jockeys Derby, and there's obviously female amateur jockeys this way, but there's also Gentleman's Amateur Derby as well. Meanwhile, Steve Donoghue was a very, very well-known jockey, winning 14 classics, with a Derby 6 times, 2,000 guineas 3 times, 5,000 guineas once, and Oaks and Ledger twice each, and a champion jockey 10 times in 1914 and 1923. Another horse associated with was legendary Brown Jack, who won the champion hurdle once, and then went on to win 6 successive races of the Queen Alexandra Stakes at Royal Ascot, and including his classic wins, both Pommern and Gay Crusader in 1915 and 1917 winning the Triple Crown, and he's the only jockey to win 2 Triple Crowns. The Wikipedia site here saying that always popular with the public and his fellow professionals, Donoghue was never called up by the stewards. He was less popular with owners and trainers because of his tendency to switch allegiance when he had the opportunity of winning wide. Mind you, not Lester Piggott, another jockey who won a ton of 9 derbies. Some on top of their trade, they think, well, we'll take one so we can get them. I mean, he's not the only jockey, so we say, who's done that sort of thing. He also says he appeared as himself in Wings of a Morning, Britain's first Technicolor film. I think Racing Post rates Donoghue as 4th in the top 50 jockeys of the 20th century. At Thirsk, with an apprentice handicap faction under a mile for €3 only, and the Mile Celebration Cup handicap stake, 7 furlongs, €3 plus, and this seems a new race. Friday, an evening meeting back in Northern Ireland with Down Royal. Northern Ireland with Downpatrick. I didn't say earlier, Downpatrick's actually, of course, Northern Ireland. It's not the Republic of Ireland. I made a mistake there. And Downpatrick and Down Royal are, as I said before, it's all Irish sport horse racing, like Rugby Union. And so Downpatrick and Down Royal are run by the Irish, as well as the British Horse Racing Authority and the Irish Horse Racing Board. And there's apprentice handicap here at Down Royal, 1 mile 5 furlongs, €4 plus. Back in Britain, another evening meeting back at Hamilton Park again. Hamish McGregor Memorial Nursery Handicap Stakes. Faction of 6 furlongs, obviously being a nursery, €2 only. The Scottish Stewards Cup Handicap Stakes, same distance, €4 plus. And further Glasgow Stakes, over sat 2 metres, there were 90 in fact in Hamilton. It's rather difficult to get back with an evening meeting in Scotland. And the Glasgow Stakes, faction of 1 mile 3 furlongs, €3 only. Hamish McGregor was the founder of McGregor Flooring Company, and he died about a month ago, and his wake was held at the Hamilton Park Racecourse. He also had a connection with Hamilton Rugby Club. The Scottish Stewards Cup, obviously the version of the Stewards Cup at Goodwood, and this was created, this version at Hamilton in 2001. Glasgow Stakes was started, looks like in 1976. The Wikipedia has results running back to that time, so it would be at least 1976. I wonder if it's actually first one in York. I'm not quite sure it's called Glasgow Stakes. It's definitely that name at the time, before it then moved to Hamilton. Its first run at Hamilton in 2006, but you had the Glasgow Stakes in York, had the Glasgow's name at York before that. Horses here, I mean, allegedly here, looking at an article, that in fact the Glasgow Stakes are named after the owner and breeder Lord of Glasgow, which explains why the name was actually connected with York originally. Even though Hamilton's quite near Glasgow, it's actually not, the name has no connection with Hamilton in fact. Similar at Newbury have the Rose Bowl Stakes, listed race 6 films with €2 only. This is a meeting in each of the last 2 years, completely by mistake. I was going through a list of listed races, I've only got 5 left actually. One I mentioned in a second at Newmarket I'm going to on this Saturday, and I just forgot it. The year before to Newbury once, I went to 24 and 25 by frankly just the cock-up situation there. Looking at Wikipedia, it's been running since at least 1963. I'm assuming it's something that's named after horse at Rose Bowl. Wikipedia doesn't mention this, but I assume that's the case. And Rose Bowl winning the Nell Gwyn in 1975, Queen Elizabeth II Stakes 75-76, the Champion Stakes in 1975, lost also the Clive Graham Stakes. Same day Newmarket has an evening meeting, Burwell Apprentice Handicap Stakes, 7 furlongs for €4 plus. Burwell near Newmarket, just overnight in Burwell once actually, I was going to Newmarket in 2 successive days a few years ago now. Also Pontefract has an evening meeting the same day, and Babs Woolford and Morlack Apprentice Classified Stakes, just over a mile and a half for €3 plus. Peter Chamberlain's 5-year Memorial Handicap Stakes, 6 furlongs, and that's €4 plus. Slightly bizarrely, frankly, Babs Woolford is the only person I've ever seen have a dance mix tribute for her. I'm assuming it's the same person. It's only Babs Woolford I can find. It appears to be late wife of Mark Woolford. And I said, well, Aisha has just basically written a mix in loving memory of Babs Woolford. I'll put a link to it. I may as well do. It's unique, certainly, from Memorial Race connected. These people have memorial races named after them, and race has been run since last year. As for a racer named after him, suggests Pippa Chamberlain died 5 years ago, and he was a regular Pontefract race goer, as the memorial race when he died in 2022, and obviously 5 years later, this tribute race has been run in his honour as well. Moving on to Saturday at Cartmel, we have female jockeys handicap hurdle for professional amateur female riders over 2 miles 1 furlong 46 yards, and the Cartmel Crystal Cup handicap hurdle over 2 miles 6 31 yards. The latter race has been run at Cartmel since 2017. Over an island on the same day of the Medical Stakes Group 3 1 mile 2 furlongs for 4-year-olds upwards fillies not won a Group 1. The Scurry handicap 6 furlong 63 yards of furlongs upwards. The Group 2 Sapphire Stakes 5 furlongs furlongs upwards. The Group 2 Railway Stakes 6 furlongs for 2 year-olds only, and the Irish Oaks unsurprisingly 1.5 miles for field fillies only. Meadow Court was a horse trained by the legendary Paddy Prendergast, and he won the Irish Derby and King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes in 1965. He also finished second in the Epsom Derby behind the Great Seabird. The race itself was started in 2024. The Scurry handicap, like its Scurry Stakes equivalent in the UK, is probably just named because scurrying along is a speedy thing and it's a 6 furlong race. The Sapphire Stakes was started in 2001 and was renamed the Sapphire Stakes in 2008. I don't know who it's named after. There was a horse called Sapphire, but that horse actually was born in 2008, so it can't be her. Railway Stakes was founded all the way back in 1851, came in Railway Plate in 1946, and was called the Railway Stakes in 1956. Meanwhile, the Irish Oaks was established a lot later than its UK counterpart, only founded in 1895, and only becoming a 1.5 mile race in 1915. Same day, back in UK, an evening meeting at Doncaster as the Apprentice Handicap Stakes, just over 5 furlongs of 3-year-olds plus. Also same day, Market Rasen has the Summer Handicap Hurdle, 2 miles 125 yards, and the Summer Plate Handicap Chase, 2 miles 5 furlongs and 89 yards. Summer Handicap Hurdle used to be a listed race, started in 2016, and when I saw it, it was a listed race, but now it's being downgraded to a handicap. Meanwhile, the Summer Plate was founded in 2002. Meanwhile, also on Saturday, Newbury has the Severton Stakes listed race, 1 mile 2 furlongs 3-year-olds plus. Hackwood Stakes, Group 3 6 furlongs, also 3-year-olds plus. The Super Sprint Stakes, 5 furlongs 54 yards for 2-year-olds only. I'm not sure when the Severton Stakes was created. According to Wikipedia, before 1979 it was run as a handicap, and it's named after a local area near Newbury. I believe the Hackwood Stakes at one point is going to be the last graded group race I was going to see in the UK. Only then for Valiant Stakes and Ascot to be added in, so it came a second last group of graded race to see before the Valiant Stakes. There's a contradiction online whether it's founded in 1969 or 1986. Meanwhile, a Super Sprint race goes back to at least 1991. Same day at Newmarket, off to this myself in a not very fun 4:30 odd train in the morning because it's basically cheap. A lot cheaper than getting trains later on. I'm here for one of the about 5 listed races I've not seen in Britain, and this is Aphrodite Filly Stakes, listed race I said, 1.5 miles 3-year-olds plus. I don't know an obvious horse called Aphrodite, so I'm just assuming it's named after Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, with her son called Cupid, the Roman version being Venus, and her son Eros. The race itself was first ran in 1994. An evening meeting at Nottingham, we have a Apprentice Handicap Stakes, 1 mile 75 yards 4-year-olds plus. Same day at Ripon, we have a Simon's 20-year heart transplant anniversary Maiden Stakes, 6 furlongs of 3-year-olds plus, and the Ripon Bell Winger Handicap Stakes, just over 1.5 miles also for 3-year-olds plus. And has been a Bell Winger handicap since 1991 at Ripon. Sunday at Curragh back in Ireland, have a Minstrel Stakes, Group 2 7 furlongs, 3-year-olds plus. And also Group 2 Curragh Cup, 1 mile 6 furlongs and 4 yards. Wikipedia has results going back to 1998 for Minstrel Stakes. It's named after a horse from Minstrel. I don't quite know, it's not called the Minstrel Stakes, rather Minstrel Stakes, as it's named after an Epsom Derby winner of the Minstrel. So the race originally ran at Phoenix Park before that race was closed, and then since that point it's been run at the Curragh. The Curragh Cup was established in 1987. On Sunday at Newton Abbot, the John Bircham and Stephen Yager Hayes Memorial Juvenile Maiden Hurdle Race, 2 miles 167 yards, and Happy 80th Birthday Ted Hull Mares Maiden Hurdle Race over the same distance. There's also Brendan Soper Memorial Handicap Hurdle Race over 2 miles 2.5 furlongs. I'm not sure I understand the naming of the first race here, as John Bircham had a memorial race back in 2017 at Newton Abbot, while Stephen Yeager Hayes had a memorial race last year, but that was not also named after John Bircham. I assume that John Bircham maybe from the postman who sadly died in January 2013 from West Somerset. I can't find much evidence about who it was. About a local footballer, John Bircham, scoring for Oak. I assume Stephen Jagger Hayes died recently, as it's more race has been named after him since last year, but I don't know any information about him. I don't know much about Brendan Soper. He died in January 2019. There's actually a happy birthday race named after him in 2004 at Exeter. As I say, since 2019, there's more races been named after him. Redcar has Luke Jobson restricted in maiden stakes, 7 furlongs for 3 to 5 year olds. It's possible Luke Jobson race was named after a guy who tragically in 2019 was killed after the effects of an assault. I'm not sure if that's the only person I think can find locally the name of Luke Jobson. Finally at Stratford, the Clive Bennett Memorial Novice Handicap Steeplechase, 2 miles 3 furlongs 98 yards. And a conditional jockey's mare's handicap hurdle with 2 miles 2 furlongs 148 yards. Clive Bennett was a youth football coach at the local Uttoxeter Town Football Club. His widow Julie was working at Uttoxeter Academy and they were fundraising in 2025 to pay for a defibrillator.